Hey guys, Midweek Lift. We're on John 19 in Words of Grace. Chuck Hank did a great job in the book, so I hope you'll check it out and read it. I just want to focus in for the Midweek Lift on the first couple verses. Then Pilate therefore took Jesus and scourged him. And the soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head and arrayed him in a purple robe. And then it's going to go down again and mention the purple robe in verse 5. Now, you're probably aware that purple is the symbol of royalty. So, of course, the soldiers wanted to put that on Jesus with the crown as they mocked him, saying, oh, if you're really the king of the Jews, then, you should be able to do something about this. But what's crazy is I don't think we understand how rare purple fabric was. In fact, just about a month ago, at the end of January, it was announced that scholars had for the first time ever been able to find purple fabric intact in Israel. And where they found it is over 200 miles from where it's produced. You see, to produce purple dye, you had to dive down into pretty deep water and pull up these mollusks. And then there's an enzyme in the glands of the mollusk that will produce the purple dye. But if it gets exposed to too much light, it will produce blue dye. And so it's very, very difficult to produce the purple dye. The cool thing is it preserves well. So even here, 3,000 years later, that fabric is still purple. It's important that they found it because what that tells them is that there was enough wealth among the kingdoms of David and Solomon, because that's the time that the fabric comes from, that they could have this incredibly expensive and rare fabric. And the Bible tells us that David was royal and that purple was a symbol of that. And so now here we go forward to the time of the Romans, and you're thinking, wait a minute, if only the Roman leaders, the most elite people, could afford purple, why on earth would these soldiers take, even in mocking and jesting Jesus, something so valuable and so rare and put it on his blood-soaked body? It just doesn't really make sense, except that in their malice towards Jesus, they were actually fulfilling prophecy and they were fulfilling the desires of God. Because Jesus being robed in purple immediately connects him as when they say the King of the Jews. Who was the King of the Jews? The king that comes to mind for everybody was David. And David, in all of his royalty and all of his splendor, would have been robed in purple. And it's probably not, other than David and Solomon, there may not have been a king ever in the history of Israel who could really afford that fabric, who would wear that fabric. Maybe there were, but it was so rare. And so for Jesus to be robed in purple, he's immediately identified with David. And who is he? He is the shoot from the stump of Jesse. He is on the seat of David. He is the King of the Jews, but he's more than that. He's the King of the world. He's the King of the kingdom of God. He's the King of heaven and earth. And so Jesus being robed in purple, done in mocking and jest, is unwittingly revealing to the world that this is a king like no other. And even in his humiliation and even in his death, his glory cannot be hidden, which I think is pretty interesting considering that one of the guards who had been involved in all this stops and looks at him and says, surely this man was the Son of God. He could recognize a king when he saw one. Have a great week.